It's an interview with Jim Lovett. The date is August 17th, 1995. Just pick up right where you left off with you and your brother discussing the situation.
We had been discussing the fact that, and analyzing, if you will, that we were going to get in and be involved in that war. And we decided the smart thing for us to do was to enlist in the services and try to get some experience and training and maybe get a little rank, get in a little better position to where we wouldn't be at the bottom of the totem pole. And we both liked horses a lot. We had, in 1938, Roosevelt had started a thing called the CMTC. Have you heard of that?
No, what was that?
That was Citizens Military Training Corps. It was for high school kids. It was a 30-day summer camp for high school kids. And we got into that, and they paid you for it to start with. I think I actually paid $1 a day, I think, for that month, a 30-day trip. And that was more than what the regular troops were getting paid. That pay for a private in the Army was $17 a month. And then when they started the draft, they raised it to $21 a month. And then when they really got into the draft and saw the war was coming along, then they kicked it up to $30 a month. But anyhow, John and I decided on this approach to it, and since in the CMTC we had been in a horse outfit, 6th Field Artillery in Fort Myer, Maryland, and we decided that we wanted a horse outfit, but we didn't want the artillery. We wanted the cavalry. We wanted to ride the horses, not ride on a case on.
Mm-hmm.
That'd bounce your butt to. So we went ahead and enlisted in the Army in 1940. In the summer of 40. Went by the courthouse where they had all the big signs up there with Uncle Sam wants you, And we went by and signed up. And I wasn't eligible, wouldn't qualify for the regular Army then. You had to be 5 foot 7 inches tall. Minimum weight was 122 pounds, I believe it was. And you had to have 20/20 vision. And I didn't meet any of those. I was only 5 foot 6 and a half. I think it was. I was about a half, a 3/4 inch short of the height. My vision was about 20/70, I think. I wore horn-rimmed glasses on back then. And I weighed a pound light, I think a little over a pound light on my weight. But John he qualified all right, so we decided when we went to enlist that he would stay ahead of me so that when he checked the eyes, while he was getting his eyes checked, I'd memorize the eye chart to the right line, and I could pass the eye exam. And the weight was a problem. We decided I'd eat about 10 pounds of bananas before we went for the physical, and the height's the same thing. I'd lay on the sofa. When I first got up in the morning, I was just exactly 5 foot 7. But then after been up an hour or so, the weight would pull you down, and by noontime, I'd be about 5'6 and a half or 5'6 3/4. So the night before we were going to go down and enlist, I had gotten Mama to get a bunch of bananas in and went to bed. And when I got up in the morning, I got up and went downstairs and lay on the sofa, and John started feeding me bananas. And I swear I don't know how many I ate, but I ate bananas that was about 8 o'clock in the morning, I think, when it started on. And from then to noontime, I ate bananas. I could hardly walk, it was so stuffed. But then it was time to get up and walk. We had to walk downtown from where we lived. It was about 3 or 4 miles. So we would walk down to the courthouse there, and Wayne signed up. And I passed everything. There were about 4 or 5 other guys signing up at the same time, and we let them all go ahead on the eye chart. So I had plenty of time to memorize the 20/20 line and read it forward and backwards. Back then they just had a chart on the end of a wall in the hallway. And until you cover an eye and read left to right or right to left. and I passed with 20/20 vision. He did question my bifocal glasses. One after I read the eye chart, why are you wearing glasses? It said astigmatism. I didn't know what it was, but I knew if people had to wear glasses. And he bought it. So we got in and then went to. Then we sat on our tails for the rest of that year, until January of 41. We got orders to go to Harrisburg and get sworn in. And went there and got sworn in. It was about 20, 24 guys. We got sworn in. They read us all the articles of war and that stuff. Told us what to expect, and the master sergeant was handling it. Was going to swear us in. Told us to raise our right hands and take the oath. And then some captain had come out to give us the oath. So, and he said, "We understand. I want you to take the oath that you come under the articles of war." And of course, John and I already knew about that. And so they had us raise our right hands and start to give us the oath. And I stopped him. I said, "Just a minute, sir." I said, "I'd like to know what our assignment is." We had requested and been assured that we could get in the horse cavalry. And he had told the sergeant to read off the assignments, and he read them off. Well, they had us scheduled for going to quartermaster trucking outfit. And I think it was. And I told the captain, I said, "Sir, we were promised we could get in the horse cavalry, and that's the reason we enlisted." And I said, "I don't want to go in if I'm not in the horse cavalry." He said, he told the sergeant, "Is there any openings in the cavalry?" And the sergeant said, "No, sir." He said, "Well, maybe you can get transferred later." And I told John, I said, "Let's get out of here, John." I knew we weren't under the articles of war until we took the oath. So we turned and started going. The captain called us back, and the sergeant read that list again and see if there's any openings in the cavalry. So he found some openings in the cavalry, and that's how I went to 3rd Cavalry at Fort Myer, Virginia, which was the President's Cavalry. And that's where we started. And I think I've got that maybe written
down there.
Something on there.
What was the training like?
Training was typical cavalry training. You didn't get to ride a horse until you learned how to ride. Because a person riding a horse that has a bridle on him, bits and everything else can really mess up a horse. And so you had to learn to ride bareback. And that was the early training on the mounted end of it, was going down the corral and getting a horse up with a halter shank and lead him out. And you had to learn to be able to mount it and get it off. And then you had to ride it bareback without a bridle. They just tie the halter shank, which is a rope, a lead rope, and you tie it to the other side of the halter, and then you'd ride around like that. And you had to walk, trot, and gallop and bareback. And once you got where you could stay on a horse like that, under those conditions, and you learn pretty quick to use your legs to keep on, to keep the pressure on. But now, you had to take little jumps after that, all of which was bareback. And then you got your saddle and bridle, and it was everything was just typical military training, except the only things that were different on. I mean, you had to qualify in a mounted pistol, which was a rather tricky thing. And then they had a saber course, and they had those sabers were, they weren't anything like these dress-up things like Marines and those. That saber was long and heavy. It was longer than that Japanese saber hanging out there, and it was heavy. I could hardly hold the darn thing. They were so heavy, but they were designed that it was for use at a gallop. If you were fighting Indians or whatever, in charge, and all you had to do was hold the saber out, and it was heavy enough that if it hit somebody, if it didn't take their head off, it would knock them way the hell off the horse. And they had a mounted saber thing there that they discontinued not too long after we had our basic training. But the mounted pistol deal was a figure-8 course, and they had silhouette targets, and you had to enter the thing at a gallop, at a canter, and every step that the horse took below the canter, if he broke from a gallop into a trot, every step that he took out of a canter, they deduct a shot from you, hit. You had to fire 2 magazines of 45s at it, and they were different. One would be one over the right front, be on the left front, and be one at the rear, and the right rear, the left rear, one dead ahead, and so you had 2 magazines, and you had that, which was twice around the figure-8 course. And it was a tight course. It was hard to keep a horse in a canter while you're trying to do this. But they discontinued that because several guys shot their horses on that oath. You got the horse in a gallop, he kind of stretches his neck out, you know, and you lean forward. If you don't lean forward and get ahead of him to fire over his head, he might, if he throws his head up, blam, you got him in the head. So they finally decided it was costing them too many horses.
When was it that you completed your training for the cavalry?
There never was any. You were always training. It wasn't like it was later where they had an X number of weeks. You just trained until they decided that you had learned enough, were skilled enough and everything. But I had gone in with the idea, and I think my brother John did too, that we were going to work to be generals someday. You know, that was my idea, that I was going to make a career out of the Army, and so was John. And so that was, I really worked early in that and read the manuals and learned stuff. And so I got promoted pretty quick. I made corporal, I think, in a couple of months, 3 months after. Maybe 3, 4 months, whatever, after we got there. But, and you didn't put it then. You had to fight for it. They made you an acting corporal. As a PFC, you were acting corporal, and then you'd get squad duties. They'd assign you maybe a firing squad or a pallbearing detail. We did a lot of the stuff over at Arlington National Cemetery. And I think in there I mentioned my 2 corporal. After I made corporal, 2 details. I had 1 firing squad and 1 pallbearing, and both were disasters. But I was learning, you know.
Yeah.
And they never did break me for it. So but before the war, it was tough. Like I said, they made you an acting corporal, and they'd give you 4 or 5 of your guys from your group, put you on some detail, and you had to command them. And of course, those guys been in the state, they knew you and everything else, and you didn't have the stripes, and they'd try to give you a rough time. And you usually wind up. There was one kid from Kentucky, and I don't remember his name. I've forgotten most of those names, but one kid from Kentucky I had on detail that I guess 3, maybe 4 times we went down behind the stables. If a guy didn't do it, you had to go. The only way you had to go make him do it, make him wish they had. That kid beat me up every time. Pounded the hell out of me. But I told him that I think the 3rd time fight we had down there, and that's the way things were settled. And you went after dark when the officers couldn't see you and nobody could see you, went down to the stables and had it out. And after the 3rd time he beat me up, and I think he made some comment. You know you're gonna get beat. Why do you keep doing it? Or something like that. And I told him, I said, I'm gonna keep on. I said, one of these days I'm gonna beat the hell out of you. And we never had a fight after that. He was a good soldier when he was under my command. But that's what you had to go through to get promoted. The reason, the NCO sergeants had to recommend you for promotion to corporal. If a sergeant recommended you for promotion to corporal, and you didn't turn out to be a good corporal, they'd bust the sergeant. So it wasn't easy getting promoted. But I finally got promoted to corporal. And I was a corporal at the time war broke out. With Japan. And then I got promoted to staff sergeant and sent out to infantry. By that time I had become a pretty good cavalry soldier, if I do say so myself. I had good enough that I got a lot of the what the others considered the nasty jobs, dealing with horses. I broke horses for them, remounts, and I don't remember how long that went on, but and that inoculation time, that was always tough. You had to get inoculations for sleeping sickness and other stuff. And the veterinarian would come down to the corral and lay his stuff out on the table by the watering trough. And somebody, they'd have a detail to lead horses up to get inoculated. And, somebody would have to ear them down. I inherited that job of earing down those horses. Because after the first one no trouble. But he goes and tells all the rest of the horses what's coming, and from then on they don't want you to get around their head. And they're just like human beings in that respect. But I got on that detail, and I'd have to ear them down, and that's a rough job because the horses will rear up on you and sling their head. And a horse is pretty powerful. They'll throw you all over the place. If you don't do it right, you'll wind up with a broken bone. But what you do is hold the arm over their neck like that and grab the halter and then put your right leg in front of their front legs. Hold it out in front of them so when he rears up, you ride up with him. And then you fight with him while he's throwing his head around till you get his ear. Once you get his ears on, they'll settle down. And I was, like I say, I was making a name for myself, so to speak, and I had a good soldier in the cavalry. And I got on firing squad detail after I made corporal. First thing I had was that firing squad detail over in Arlington Cemetery. And I detailed that. I think that's in there. Mm-hmm. The fact that we wound up laughing at the graveside there. The Greek Orthodox funeral. And nobody told us what a Greek Orthodox funeral was. And when that guy, of course, we'd been standing there at parade rest, which is a rigid position, for I guess at least a half an hour before the funeral. The bunch got down there. And the priest in his little robe, and I think he had some kind of one of those little black dicky hats or something on. But he said a few words and then he started to sing song stuff. And when he started, none of us had ever heard anything like it before. And by that time, of course, after they got there, we had attention. And I passed kind of an aside to the guy next to me. I said, pass the word down there, everybody. Don't anybody sneeze or do anything. And they passed the word on down. So we're standing there. And that guy went on and on, sang song and this stuff. And kid in about the middle of the firing squad there, about and that's all it took. We couldn't hold it back. The whole damn firing squad, that guy sang song, and we're standing there laughing.
I was really laughing so that everybody else could see it.
Huh?
Really laughing. I mean,
right there.
Everybody.
They're all grouped around the casket and everything. We're right on the back edge of the crowd. The people, mourners, waiting there to fire our rifles. Everybody, including the lieutenant. There was a second lieutenant over there who was in charge of us, and he didn't know what was going on either to start with. But the fact, well, we were there, and he showed up, and we're standing there at parade rest like we're supposed to be and everything, and I was doing everything by book. And I went to him, as a matter of fact, I knew I was going to get busted. I went to him after it was all over and apologized to him. But when that kid started laughing, I said, well, this couldn't help us out. And fortunately, he said, well, he said, I had it. So we got out of that one. But the worst one, and I'd give anything in the world if I had a damn videotape or a picture of that thing, was my first what do you call them? Pallbearing detail. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was in trouble. I guess it was that morning when it first got up and got out, because it was a fine drizzling rain, and it couldn't make up its mind whether the rain got over with or one of those kinds. But I'd never been on a pallbearing detail, and I'd gone to do things right. I'd talked to this corporal that had been on several of them, and I talked to him, asked him about it, and I said, oh, you don't nothing worry about it. He said, you go over there, and they bring the case on over there, and you load the casket on the case on, strap it on, go to the graveside, take it out, walk down, and lay it on the grave. So the only thing you have to remember is that you carry them feet first. And got to hold them level. Carry them level and feet first. Tell went over to the chapel. The post chapel had a flight of about 6 of those stairs up to the floor level. And we stood outside there lined up for the dinner parade rest, waiting for the signal to come in. They were supposed to let us know when the body was ready to come out. And we stand there, I guess I was over there at least a half an hour, 3/4 of an hour early. And we're standing there, and shortly after, here comes a whole troop of cavalry marching up. And I figured, boy, well, some big shot here if he gets a whole troop of cavalry and an honor guard. And so we stood there, and pretty soon it was raining, drizzling rain off and on. And pretty soon the guy came to the door and motioned us, so we went up to the chapel and in the narthex there. And they're bringing the body down the aisle. They bring it out in the narthex. They're supposed to shut the doors, but the narthex was so narrow that they couldn't shut the doors. With the gurney, it would hit the gurney. So we knew it was head first. So we knew we had to turn it around. So we took it off the gurney and got the gurney out of the way and then stood it up. Stood him up. And I guess, I think it may have been on his head. But anyhow, we got the doors shut so the people couldn't see what we were doing. And we got him turned around so he'd be feet first coming out. We started out down there. And I had gone by, I think that field artillery was battery that had a case on there at Fort Myer. So those details, and I had gone by and looked over that case on, which was covered in black cloth. I had looked it over, I checked the belts and everything after I talked to that corporal to make sure that I was prepared. But I never did see those damn pins. There was a little wrought iron pin that went down at the rail and one at the front that a steel pin, conical shape with a wrought iron loop on the end of it, finger loop, so you could reach there and pick the plastic out. I figured out later that was too late. That it was what you're supposed to do is pull those things out. And I had little rollers in there that rolled a casket on. But this corporal never told me that. And I didn't see him when I looked at the case on. So we're bringing the body out, and this sucker was heavy. I think, if I recall, I think it was 285 pounds, dead weight, plus the casket and everything. Some big fat general. We brought him out, and we had to hold him. I had us lined up right, with a tall guys on the front of me and another kid, and then a couple of short ones on the rear. And we held him up real good mouth down the steps, down after the caisson. And of course, caisson wheels are about 5 foot diameter. And we had to hold that rascal out at arm's length. We got him on the end of it, but it wouldn't. That's where it was. We thought we had to lift him all the way home because it wasn't sitting on the rollers. And then we got him both sides out, and I tried to heave. When we lifted it up, and we get it forward about a foot or so. Every time we heaved, that thing could sound like the bottom ripping out of it. We finally got it on far enough on thing here and got straps tied on it. And the horse had moved on out, and we followed behind them. It started drizzling rain, started picking up a little bit. By then I knew it was one of those disaster days. And if you know a lot of times in cemeteries, there's a lot of steep hills in it. And I told the guys while we're marching along there with a whole troop of cavalry behind us. I told them, whatever you do, fellas, if we're on a slope anywhere, dig your heels in so we don't slip. That grass will be slick. Well, we hadn't hardly gotten started out from the chapel, winding down the first hill, and there's where the graveside is. And I mean, there was a steep slope down there too, and people already standing around it. We were waiting for the casket to get there. We got there, the horses stopped. We heaved that thing off, and I expect that body to drop out the bottom any minute. But we got it off. I caught the other guy and said, dig your damn heels in. I said, we can't hold this rascal if somebody slips. And I hadn't got it out of my mouth, and we hadn't gotten. I don't think the two guys in the rear were still on the slope. They just got over the curve. When this got kid on the other side of me, his feet slipped out from under me. And when that weight went on me, I couldn't hold it. And down went the casket. And it started going down, so it was just like going down them ski slopes. And the only thing I can say was, I think all 6 of us ran after it in column like we're supposed to. But there we were for down that thing. And I swear it was, I don't know how, it seemed like it was forever. But it hit the bottom of that slope and skidded right for the graveside. And I could see that through the yard. But it was feet first. We had that right. And we caught it later about 12 inches, 18 inches from the edge of the hole there. But we were still in unison chasing it. And we pulled up alongside of it, just like we practiced it that way. Picked it up, walked up on there and set it on the straps and backed off. Got it, marched on up top of the hill where the caisson was, and it was starting to move off. And I got up and got in there and we got the hell out of there. And I thought sure that I'd get busted for that, but for some reason I didn't.
Was everybody laughing at the graveside when they saw that or not?
You know, I never saw a face there. All I could see was my stripes going out the window and that casket getting away from us. But I was proud of the boys that we had it first, and it was level. It just started sliding down that slope. But we found the thing and got out of there. I couldn't tell you whether anybody laughed or not. If I had been there, I would have laughed.
Oh, yeah.
But it was we can do that. I'll tell you, life was pretty good in the Army before the war.
And then you're still at Fort Myer when Pearl Harbor happened.
Yeah.
Soon after that, they transferred you to the infantry. How did that come about?
No, we moved home. We had to move down to Oglethorpe, Georgia. Well, when the war broke out, first thing, that Sunday morning I was shooting pool in the day room. I'd gotten up early and waiting on breakfast. I was shooting pool in the day room around noontime, I think it was. But first thing I did was pull out some of us and load us up and took some to Washington to be guard on some of these bureaucrats as they went out for business. They sent another kid and myself a Treasury Department building. And first and only time I ever saw a $10 bill. They had it on the wall. I had a sample of all the bills ever printed. One of them was $10,000 bill. I didn't know I had that much money in that. Not know that. But we one of these people were we were courier guards. And then that was I don't know how long, maybe the first few days anyhow. Then somebody woke up to the fact that all of Washington water came in this big aqueduct down from the hills in Virginia. The reservoir up there, and the aqueduct was laid on top of the ground. What they had done was built that thing in and covered it over with dirt and put a road on top of it. But wherever there was that drainage area, and there they had a 6-foot diameter drain pipe that went under that thing. If that's on the homework road, all they had to do was blow up one of those drain things there, and they'd knock out the whole water supply close. But they hadn't done that. We were there over Christmas. I remember that. Cold, wet snow. And then after we got through with that detail, I decided Patton was going to start in Mexico. And so that's the Cavalry was our older part, and they were going to convert it to a mechanized cavalry. And go up somewhere in Kentucky. I think that seemed to be like it was Knoxville or something. Anyhow, they were going there, and we were going to move down to Oglethorpe and take over their horses and everything, and take over that post, which we did, and we were down there until the fall of that year, and then by the time it started the draft up real good, they needing to build some divisions, infantry divisions. And they sent us, they pulled a cadre out of our third battalion, and I got promoted to staff sergeant. My brother was in another trip, but he got promoted the same way. I went to cadre to Atterbury, Indiana, and staffed cadre of the 83rd Infantry Division. And Atterbury was just built at that time. But we took that bunch. And then they decided they needed more hostile material to kill. So I think they wanted some OCS, and Bill and I both got called on that. They were going to send me out as a staff, as a first sergeant on another cadre, or I had the option on the OCS. And John was in the same boat, and he decided to go to OCS. I didn't want to be an platoon sergeant. It was the best job in the Army then. I was happy there.
Why did you feel that way?
Well, because it was where the action was, I guess. Because you were the ones that were responsible for training your men and their capabilities in combat and so forth. And I was good at it. I knew it. And by that time, I had earned in gambling debts. Boys in my platoon owed me somewhere, well, several cases of
All right. So you were saying that basically your whole platoon owed you a case of whiskey from gambling.
more than a
like
case.
being a couple of cases.
More like 2 cases, 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was part of my training method. Was first place I had to skill myself. I had a heavy weapons too, which were 60 millimeter mortars and light machine guns. And part of the training was develop skills enough to where they could pick up that, say, the mortar from a prone position and have to run a certain distance there to set it up in a place and get ready to fire, have it aimed at the right thing, mistake, and so forth, ready to fire. Mm-hmm. And where I wanted, I had developed my skills before the recruits came in, and I knew I could do it in under 30 seconds. But I kept telling these guys in their training that you're too slow. You ought to be able to set that thing up in a minute or less. They were all over a minute at that time, and they didn't think it could be done. We were out in the field of training, and I said, well, I'll bet you a pint of whiskey or whatever that I can set it up and show you it can be done. And I got a couple of takers on that, and so I went into the prone position and went through the whole thing there and set it up in about 45 seconds. I was setting them up too. But anyhow, it kept going like that and got down. You can't do it, but a couple of, I told them I can do it in less than 45 seconds. And I got a couple more to it. It started looking better and better to them. We're going to get some free whiskey. And so I finally got them down and got them primed up good, and I had almost the whole platoon bet me a pint of whiskey. When I finally got down saying, well, you guys, you don't pay attention to what I tell you, but damn, I said, hell, I can set the damn thing up in under 30 seconds, easy. And boy, they all took a bite out of that one. And so I went through the thing, and I let them check it after I set it up. They get to check, make sure I was on aim, mistake, the bubble level, and all that stuff. And I did in 28 seconds that time. And so that's where I had the backlog of whiskey. But, and I was conducting my own training. I was good enough at that time, proficient enough in tactics and training and everything. The captain of the company I was in, the division, as they always do, they had their own training schedule. Mm-hmm. And it's ironclad, you can't vary from it. And if it said that this particular period from 10 to 11, you were going to have assembly and disassembly of machine gun out in the training area, and it's raining cats and dogs, you got an hour wasted, but you couldn't change it. Mm-hmm. And I told my company commander, was a pretty nice guy from Virginia, as I remember. I think his name was Latrobe. I don't remember his first name, Francis maybe. But I talked to him and said, Captain, if you'll let me have a free rein on setting my own schedule, on training on this thing to take advantage of the weather and everything else, I'll turn you out the best weapons platoon in this division. And he was impressed enough with me apparently to say, okay, but he said, just keep, he said, use that training area way down in the corner there where nobody can find you, and I'll keep out of trouble. So that's what we did, and that's where I really got those boys whipped into shape. And we got something to eat too, rabbits. It was in the wintertime, and around Christmas time, or before then, when they sent all those recruits in, and but they still hadn't finished the camp, and they still hadn't gotten the rations coming, and we were still living mostly on beans and bread, really, and milk. I think they got 6 quarts of milk a day was a ration for a whole company of men, and that wasn't enough for even give anybody any cereal. But anyhow, I down in my corner of the training area there, right near the Wabash River was boundary, and we were training down there, and I had a deal with the men in the platoon. I'd set out a certain limit of expertise. When you get to this level of learning, the quicker you do it, the quicker you get off. If it's 2 hours scheduled for this period and you reach this level that I set in an hour, we're going to take the other hour off. And I could do that down in my corner of the boondocks there. And we were in one of those periods there where they had, I was satisfied with the level they had attained, and I told them, well, we'll knock off. We got about a half hour to the next period. We'll knock off for a half hour. And somebody kicked up a rabbit. The snow was about a couple of feet deep. Kicked up a rabbit there, and this was another Kentucky boy. Seemed like a lot of those Kentucky boys that I always get. But he suggested that let's catch some rabbits and have rabbits to eat. And I said, well, I don't know about that. I said, the mess sergeant came out of the cavalry with me, and I figured we could work something out. So I said, well, how are we going to handle this? What about it? He said, you catch him. He said, that little old tree down here in the holler is a thorn tree. He said, they bring it up me there. He said, he always carried a string with him, and he had a ball of string in his jacket pocket. So they bring him down there, and I'll skin him and hang him up, drain the blood for him, and take care of that. So we started out hunting rabbits, and we had those long overcoats on. We'd walk around across a field area there until a rabbit got kicked up, and then we'd surround him, and we'd close in the circle until he made a break for it, and then whoever was closest to him would flop over him with his overcoat over it. You had a rabbit. I think we caught 28 or 30 rabbits that first day. Took them back there. This kid skinned them, cleaned them, and everything. Took them back to Mess Sergeant, and he agreed to cook them for us if we'd give him some of them, which we were glad to do. And so we had rabbits for about 2 or 3 days there, while the rest of the company, when they go through the chow line at nighttime, they get their beans and bread and whatever, and my boys come along with a rabbit, and they'd get some rabbit. Well, the others got unhappy with that, so they complained to the captain about it, and he asked me to discontinue that practice, which I did. But anyhow, all this, we finished up, wound up, I know we had the best trained platoon in that division. And I'd have taken anybody on, but anyhow, they decided that they wanted to send me out as the first sergeant. Another division they were going to start. And I wanted to see if I could get out of that, and so he gave me the option of going to OCS. And I told Brother John about it, and so he went too, and he was the last one on the list for that class at the infantry school. And so the battalion commander told me I couldn't go to the infantry school, that I'd have to wait for the next class. And I tried my damnedest to talk him into making an exception, letting my brother and I stay together going to that class. But they wouldn't do it. So they offered me the option of going to field artillery OCS. So not to let my brother get ahead of me, so I went to field artillery OCS and got commissioned as an officer in field artillery. And he went to infantry and got commissioned there. And then later I went through well, that was the end of my promising military career after I got commissioned.
Why is that?
Because the first unit I went to, was assigned to after I got my commission, was the 103rd, was the 384th Field Artillery Battalion of the 103rd Infantry Division. And it was commanded by a guy that should not have even been commissioned. But he was a West Pointer, gone through West Point. His name was Roberts. He was a major when I first got there. And he had, I think, gone got commissioned at West Point as a second lieutenant, and had gone from there to major in about 6 or 8 months. And it was totally not the type of person for a leadership position. In fact, he was sadistic, but he was one of these types that he made all kinds of mistakes, but he never would admit them. He always blamed them on somebody else, find somebody to blame. And when we first reported in there, instead of telling us what we lost to his battalion and everything, first thing he said to us, the three of us, said, how do you say it? Instead of saying welcome or anything, the first thing he said to us was, "You all are 90-day wonders." He said, "We'll tell you one thing while you're here. Second lieutenants should never be seen, never be heard from, and never seen. But when they're seen, they shouldn't be running," or something to that effect. Right then and there, I was on a collision course, and it kept on. I kept trying to get out of his outfit. I'd go and ask for transfers, and he'd turn them down, and he finally told me that I think the last time that I ran out of excuses. I finally told him I wanted to get transferred overseas, that I'd been in the Army a long time and everything, and I need to get in combat, be more valuable there. And he told me that he turned me down and said he's going to tell me you're never going to get out of this outfit, and you're always going to be a second lieutenant. He told me that. Well, I think he told me before he told me that, said he hated my guts or something like that. And because I wouldn't kiss his butt. And he told me that I was always going to be a second lieutenant, and I knew better than that. So I let that slide by, but he finally convinced me. I had the best training of anybody in the service. They came out with a regulation that a second lieutenant, that after 6 months in a particular job assignment, would be promoted to first lieutenant. And so I knew he'd have to promote me pretty soon. But he'd run me up to 5 days or a week short of having my 6 months, and then he'd reassign me. And I held every job in that battalion except his and the executive officer. I held all the staff jobs. Everybody, when he sent them on leave, I'd get their job. A battery commander, signal officer, quartermaster, S4, S1, S2, S3, and S4. I held all of them. The only job I didn't get was his executive officer job. But I bided my time. I knew I was going to lick him. And I think S3 was the last one that I had on his staff, and then it was either he was going to have to make me his executive officer, or I was going to get my final weekend, get promoted. Son of a gun started sending me off school, which was detached service. I went to Oklahoma, went back to the full track laying vehicle course, motor course, the signal course up in Kentucky on the radios, and learned how to build radios. The whole ball of wax, and then I figured, well, he's got to run out of school sometime. And then he sent me on another officer himself. We're detailed down to Indianola, Texas, to set up a anti-aircraft firing range for the whole division, and sent me down there on DS, which was, I think that was about a 6 weeks deal down there. But by then he'd made Christian out of me. I figured this rascal can do it. He said he wanted to. So I got a hold of the personnel officer and asked him about changing detail from artillery to infantry. And he gave me some what I would have to do, and I'm going to apply for change of detail. And he said, well, it's a waste of time. The old man he won't accept them. He'll tear them up. And I told him, I said, make 2 sets. And if he tears them up, I'll send them right to Washington, which I did. He tore them up, a guy, personnel officer, a warrant officer named Jones, Deacon Jones. And he called one mess one day, and he said, well, old man tore up the papers today. I said, well, send the other set direct to Washington. Major General Julio was the adjutant general then. So he forwarded them. Next day I was changing detail and everything. But I hadn't gone through channels. Everybody from there, battalion commander on up, had to reply by endorsement why I had gone through channels. And by this time, Roberts had been made colonel, lieutenant colonel. Colonel Roberts called me in, and he knew his goose was cooked by that time. And he told me, I can't understand why you did this. I said, I had the greatest hopes for you. I said, I'll give you all this good training and everything else. I was going to make you one of the best officers in the division. All this kissy stuff. And I told him, yes, sir, Colonel. So I said to him, I had to go from there, Division Artillery, General Wicks. And he was West Point, but he was a good officer. And went in General Wicks, reported to him, and he wondered why the hell I'd done what I'd done. I gave him the standard SOP answer the division said officers were supposed to give. And Wicks said, God damn it, he said, I don't want to hear that crap. I wonder why you didn't go through channel. I said, I did go through channel, sir. I said, I submitted that request to Colonel Roberts, gave him a date and everything. I said, he, personnel officer, told me that he had torn it up and done it out instead of forwarding it. Well, that got me off the carpet with Wicks. He said, well, I wish you had come through me first. And I said, well, I realize now I should have, sir, but I was so aggravated at this guy that I just did it the way I did it. But I've been red flagged ever since then. I'm still red flagged in War Department. You don't make those kind of mistakes there. I never would have gotten promoted to first lieutenant if it hadn't been for Patton. George Patton he was commander of 3rd Army over in Europe. But that's the last group we were assigned to, attached to. And I had gone several times. I asked Colonel Kane, my battalion commander, to try and get me promoted. And he told me, he said, well, I've submitted your name four times, and they keep kicking it back. Well, over in, I think we were down in Austria or somewhere at that time, at the end of the war. I was back in the battalion. I asked him to submit again, try to get me promoted. And he's told me, he said, it's a waste of time. So they've got you red flag somewhere. And I said, well, Patton is still Army commander here. And I said, when you go submit it, and when you go back there, tell Patton that I was a member of the 3rd Cavalry, which was his old command. He was regimental commander there before he made general. And so apparently they told him that. I got my promotion and stuff like that. But if it hadn't been for that, I don't think I'd ever gotten promoted. And I never got any more until I got out of service. But I knew I was, that ended my military career. At the end of the war, wound up over in the Philippines had a detachment up in the hills there, and I've got a picture of some of the Filipinos. But I wound up there at the end of the war and had an opportunity to get out. Or I thought about applying for a regular Army commission. I realized I got thinking about it, and I figured, well, what do I want out of life besides military career? When I got down thinking about it, I figured, well, I want me a good wife and some kids and good family life, and what I've seen of the military and the officers' wives and everything else is not the place. But so I got the hell out of it. And they offered me a reserve commission promotion to captain. And I told them, no, I've made up my mind, I don't want more to do with it. So I turned it down. About a month or so after that, I got thinking about it. These SOBs know I was an officer, and I was a good company level officer. if they have another need for me, they're going to call me back. And I don't want to, if I got to go back, I ain't going back as a lieutenant. So I better go take that commission. So I went and offered to take a reserve commission, but I couldn't get the promotion. Because I didn't take it when I was offered it. They turned it down. Wound up taking it as a lieutenant. But I did take a reserve officer commission. And then since then, I put in umpteen years and finally got promoted to lieutenant colonel. I've been through the command general staff school and everything else. But I knew I wasn't going to, I was always going to be fighting that. And I guarantee you that if you go to Department of Army and DOD in Washington, they've got a big red flag on my file there.
Mm-hmm. From way back.
Because they don't want nobody that doesn't conform to that. And that was part of what turned me off with it, that there was so much poorly qualified people getting promoted with kiss ass, bird dog, and whatever you want to call it, that I just couldn't. My life has been built on what was instilled in me in my youth, and top priorities with me have always been honor and integrity. And there's no honor and integrity and kiss butting around with politicians or military officers or whoever. I don't care. I never have. I've bucked it all my life. It's a hard deal. But I've been satisfied with myself the way I've been happy. I had a good life, and I would hope other people could have as good a life as I've had. Got a great family. There's a lot of crap here if you want to read it and look at it.
I was interested in what happened after that when you got the transfer. You went to the 86th Infantry Division. Is that correct? Because you ended up in Blackhawk.
You're a glutton for punishment, aren't you? Hold on while I go get me some coffee.
Okay.
My voice. From 103rd. Basically, yes. 103rd was in Camp House, Texas. That's where all that artillery stuff went on. I got to change the detail to the 409th Infantry, and within a day or two, they kicked me out of that division, which I was glad to get out of. Mm-hmm. But I went to 86, and they were somewhere in Louisiana, Claiborne, I think. Right after I got to 86th Division in Claiborne, and they got transferred back to Camp House, Texas, and the 103rd went somewhere else. But I had a good time there. And in the 103rd Division, I made $700 some odd to get my ass chewed out for that not replying by endorsement for that fiasco. And eventually, this guy, you may be interested to know, Roberts eventually got retired. They don't Section 8 the West Pointer, they retire. But I'll give you one guess as to where he got relieved of command as a result of that. Of course, that didn't help me. I was gone. But where do you think his next assignment was? Being a sadistic, unqualified officer.
You mean after he was?
Yeah, what kind of... They took him out of command, artillery command, combat command, and transferred him somewhere else. Now, where would you think in the division that they would put a guy that is a sadist and...
in the quartermaster?
No, something better than that. That's a good guess. In MPs, military police.
Perfect.
Who do you want? The perfect guy from the military? And that's where the heck they put him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finally realized that they had to get rid of him. And I ran into a captain, battery officer from that outfit sometime after the war at one of my summer training camps, and found out the details on what had happened to him. They made him commander of the division military police, and then he couldn't handle that, so then they finally retired him. He should have been Section 8. The guy needed psychological counseling bad, but that wasn't my bailiwick anyhow. But no, the best officers in the war, most qualified, I thought, for combat command was George Patton and Jonathan Wainwright. Jonathan Wainwright was second in command to MacArthur in the Pacific. And Omar Bradley, he was a good officer. The only thing I had against Omar Bradley, he was a well-qualified officer, but he was capable of playing their little political game. And he never got near as far as he should have gotten. But I had very little respect for Eisenhower, next to none, because I knew his background and saw his actions, what he did. He is the result of my brother getting killed, because he kissed butt with Montgomery. Montgomery wanted to be the big dog, and Eisenhower didn't have the guts. If Patton Patton would have gotten rid of Montgomery. If he had to shoot him, he would have done it. But Eisenhower didn't have the guts enough of it. And so he caved into Montgomery's demand to be top dog, do my plan. You know, I'm the only intelligent, just like your liberals are today. And he let Montgomery go through with his, I think it was called Operation Market Garden. Montgomery wanted to go up around through Belgium, and Patton went straight through the Siegfried line. But everything went to Montgomery, and he had intelligence that there was a Nazi armored division sitting there right where he was going to make his job zone. He threw away a airborne division up there. But he went ahead with it, and that's what happened there.
Was your brother in 82nd or 101st?
I think 82nd. He was airborne, I remember that. And, it might be. I don't think it's on this. I had a letter. I'm pretty sure it was 82nd. You'd think I'd never forget that, but there's some things you like to forget. And some things you forget that you don't care about. This is a letter from a poor guy that had trouble handling the war. Not everybody could handle that. He doesn't say one. I felt sorry for this guy.
Was it one of your brother's men who wrote to you?
Yeah. I haven't read it in so long, I don't remember the whole thing. But, he details the action where he's on the kill. You can read it if you want to. I thought it was right nice of him.
So he wrote to you after the war.
Yeah.
Dated May 6, 1940.
Yeah, he was wandering around Paris there apparently trying to get over it.
So now at this time you probably still would have been in the States when your brother died. If it was September 1944.
Yeah.
But your division went overseas. Was there an early 45?
We went. Let me see. I think I got a note on that. 19th February 45. We departed north to Boston. We arrived at Havre, France, 3rd of March 45. And we participated in the Rhine battle and the Ruhr in Bavaria.
What do you remember about that? Were you a platoon leader at this time?
Yeah. I was a platoon leader of a heavy machine gun platoon, Company H of the 340. 345th, 343rd, but been so many numbers now. Well, there it is right there, 343rd.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember much about that?
Yeah. I remember. You can pick that up if you want it. Yeah. That's a book on the division. This is something I thought you might be interested in seeing. All I got. This is a boy, one of my platoon, copied this thing down from, and I had it when I first got here in Knoxville. I started making up me a board in the house we had, and I had a 4x4 square of plywood.
Mm-hmm.
I made the mistake of gluing that stuff on there. I had some bayonets and a few other things, war mementos. That's all the members of my platoon, except one. Kelso, he'd gotten shipped out on points.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember much from the campaigns?
I'm kind of an oddball in that I've never taken all this stuff too seriously. On the surface, anyhow, I see the funny side of things.
Mm-hmm.
The ridiculous, that stuff, and that's the stuff that sticks with me. Just like that damn coffin sliding down there up the graveside, man. To me, that was a priceless experience. But that's not the kind of stuff that gets you notoriety or fame or anything, which I've never cared about, money and fame and that stuff. Just cared about being a good person, honor and integrity and all that crap that you have trouble finding nowadays. John was in the 327th.
Mm-hmm.
This was something my brother, he had gotten. You actually don't remember anything. It's my older brother, Robert. We were right across the river from each other, and we closed the rural pocket. And I was on my own out in front of the battalion. I made a couple of stupid things, did a lot of stupid things in service. But as far as closing the rural pocket, well, let me say this first. Let me go into Germany. We got over there and landed in Le Havre, France, and by that time all the hedgerow fighting and all that stuff was pretty well under control in France. But we were fixing to cross and get into Germany, and our division went into a little town called Aachen. Aachen, I think is the way it's spelled.
Mm-hmm.
Aachen, Germany. That was the first we would encounter anything in Germany. And then there was another little town right beyond it. I think it was called Duran or something like that. I don't remember how it's spelled. But we were in the area headed towards Cologne. And we reached the Siegfried line somewhere right after Aachen and Duran, but they were right on the border. And they had already been flattened by artillery fire. And then you hit the Siegfried line, which was a series of 3 rows of concrete pylons that were staggered, so there was no opening anywhere between them where you could get a tank or anything through. And that was what Germany was dependent on to stop us. Well, it didn't stop us. We got a bunch of bulldozers and ran them up there and didn't protect the fire they could, but then they had built roads over them. They just hauled up and pulled up dirt, pushed it up and filled it in and all that and made a road over it, and everybody went over on that. So that's how to beat that Siegfried line. We went from there, we went on into Cologne. And that was where I had the episode of the line cellar I was telling you about. And also, the thing, I remember the fun thing. I had a heavy machine gun platoon, and the battalion commander in Cologne, the battalion OP was in the top of a hotel right near the cathedral there. And how the cathedral never got bombed, I don't know, but our people took great pains to try to avoid that. But in Cologne, we got stopped. The bridge was blown and everything. And the battalion commander had called me up to send some machine guns up there. There were masonry towers on each side of the bridge over there, right? And the Germans were in sniping from those towers and stuff. I sent a machine gun platoon up there, took it up there, and not a platoon, a section. And down on the waterfront, there's some warehouses down there, and with the fronts blown out of them. And I found a place in a car there, one of them, that behind the rubble and everything was a good spot to set the gun up. We put a little fire on those tires over there and got to cut down on the sniping. So there was a combat patrol spread out across the girders on that bridge there. It got pinned down. That's why he sent me up there. But we got that stopped. And then we were sitting there waiting to see what's going to happen next. And meantime, the light starts fading, dusk is falling. And I relieved my gun, my good gun crew I had on there, one of the best crews. Put a couple of these 8-ball types on there to man the gun. And the rest of us were down in the hallway. The entrance to this warehouse area was a huge hallway, marble floor and everything. Stairs going up to the main floor level there. And we were in this corridor off that level there. And the last thing I told those two kids when they put them on that gun, don't light any cigarettes. And I pulled the gun, read the gun crew off, get a smoke and everything down the hall where we were behind the walls and the light wasn't sure. And just as I turned away from the gun, you sense these things. I think you have sensibilities when you're in combat conditions, or take on a super, a depth that you've never experienced in normal conditions. And I knew, although I was turning my back and walking away from this kid, I knew he was going to light a cigarette. And I just told him not to light. So I turned and looked back, and sure enough, he had just struck the match. Had a cigarette in his lips and everything. And I was close enough. I was a little closer next to that wall. I was close enough to jump at him right quick, and I slapped the cigarette and the light and everything up against his face and told him about the gun, let's get the hell out of here before you get hit. So they grabbed the gun, and I was helping pull the damn thing. We got back in the hall behind some of the wall covered. And I told him, I said, we're going to fire through there. And if we had just barely got out of position before that shell came in there where they had been sitting. In the meantime, I was still running down the hall towards that entrance there because I had another rest section of guns down there. And just as I got to that entrance area there, some of the guys down on the bottom there were fixing to open the door, and I hollered, I'm going to open that damn door. I said, you're going to walk in a mortar fire. I figured that they fired there, and they dropped them. They knew we figured we'd be running out, and they dropped more shells in there. And no sooner had I said that than boom, 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 boom. There were 6 shells dropped in that little garden area outside the doors there. And we were sitting down there, and we were behind those doors were heavy oak doors, so we were pretty well protected. But if I hadn't stopped those kids, they would have been out there in the middle of the garden area, or open area, when those mortar rounds dropped in, they killed every one of them.
And they, of course, realized that. So how did they react to that?
Well,
when they saw that,
it was a little smelly around there. The reaction is one of relief, I guess you'd call it that. We stayed huddled there and lit up smoke. We had enough cover. Nobody light would show out. We stayed there about, I stayed a good half hour or longer before I let any of them go out because after that first drop in there of all those mortars, I figured they might, you never know what Germans are thinking anyhow. They might figure, well, I'll drop another one in there just for fun. But that's what I'd have done if I'd been so down there more. But we got out of that and everything. And boys were eating off a dressing china. I had taken over a couple of houses back in the town there somewhere. And it was in apparently upscale area. And some of the boys had found some china. We hadn't been getting any hot meals or anything like that, but they started getting us hot meals there in Mormite cans. And the boys had found some china, and we decided rather than have to wash mess kits, eat off this china and throw it out in the back, not wash it, which we did. But they had scouted around in that area and brought all this, a lot of beautiful dressing china. And they had plates stacked up along the wall. I don't know how many we had. I think we ate meals for 3 days off of that dresden china and never cleaned a piece of it. Threw it out in the back there. Had a big pile of broken china out there. And I felt sorry late afterwards for that, but at the time I didn't feel sorry. I wasn't there. But, and then they got electricity restored back in the city there. And we was sitting up there. I had my headquarters on the second floor of this place there, and there was a sofa and a couch in there. This Sergeant Kelso, his got out at the end of the war there. He was one of my section sergeants. He was laying on the sofa when it got power back, and we found an old lamp, a floor lamp, one light bulb. And he had that hooked up there by his sofa. And we were stressed out, and we were pretty tired after that. And I was on this couch over there. And, I was dog tired. I didn't feel like I told him the light was on. He had a light on there. And I told him, turn the light out, son. And he said, hell, turn it out yourself if you want that. I said, Sergeant, I'll tell you one more time, turn that light if you want to turn it out, we'll shoot you something. And he said, go to hell or something like that. We were all worn out, And I could have gotten up, and I wasn't that exhausted. But I just determined I wasn't going to do it. So I pulled my 32 out. I had a 32 that got my dad when 3 years I carried it over there. I pulled it out. He was laying catching out the lamp was right almost over the head, and I just
tape out too. Alright.
But
Shot
any, yeah, but anyhow, yeah, shot right. I hit it. I'm a dead shot, but whatever I shooting with, I was no good. I came on a snake out here with a 22 rifle with no sight on it. But I haven't lost all my skills yet. But anyhow, that's stuff I remember from the war, the good stuff. Like old Odell Waters was my platoon messenger, and he walked through the open trap door behind the bar in Herside, Germany. We'd taken the town, and the town headquarters was set up in that, what had been a bar there. And Germans sniping all around and everything, blackout. Blankets hanging over the windows and all that. And so there I'd gone back to find out what the score was. We never knew what the hell was going on in the war. Now, that thing bothered me more than anything else. And anyhow, I had Odell Waters with me in case I need to send a message to everybody, my platoon sergeant and everybody. And Odell's prowling around looking for, as we all did, look for souvenirs or loot or whatever you can find. And we'd walk around behind the bar, and it's dark in this room. Although it's daylight outside, it's dark enough in the room. There's the town commander and a couple of his staff had a candle burning there to give them light shield. And all of a sudden, I'm trying to see something on the maps, what's going on. And I hear, you heard an ungodly scream. And I believe, as I recall before, anybody figured out what had gone on, heard his voice sound like a ghost coming out of a cavern or something. Oh, hell, I won't get no points for it. And that was Odell down at the bottom of he'd walked through the trap door down to a wine cellar or something down there. And a couple other guys got in here first. We're down in there. And Odell's walking along behind the bar in the dark here, and he walked by over that thing, and of course, when he went down, he threw his arms out, and it stripped the hide off both of his arms like him. That's what it. But he didn't even feel the pain. I don't think he was. All he was doing, bitching about the fact that he knew he was injured. He wouldn't get points for it. He's got enough points, he could go home. But that's the kind of stuff I remember about the war. There's some other things too, like that first shot I mentioned about that. I remember that one of our illustrious leaders, the Germans started a counterattack, 6 tanks coming on out the other side of the town. And they were starting that. The division commander sent the assistant division commander, I think, General something Pope or something. He came down with the orders that we were to attack. At the time was to attack. And Colonel Kane, Tom Kane, was my battalion commander. And he said, I had heard him talk about the Germans were mounting a counterattack there and everything. E and F Company were under fire. They were pinned down on the other side of town. And when the general told him to attack, Tom told him, he said, hell no. He said, we're under counterattack. I can't attack. This general said, well, that's the division commander's order. And Tom Kane said, he told him right then, he said, well, I'm not going to do it. You can relieve me of command until the division commander come down here and handle it himself. And that's the last anything was said about that. But they stopped the counterattack. But I tell you, to show you how confused things were, when we moved into her side, which before we moved in, I guess I ought to tell you that I was did another dumb thing. But we were being a heavy weapon. We weren't with the front line. The rifle platoons were always first ones in the town, and they were getting all the loot. And when we got to her side, which was a little town sitting down in a bowl, bridges all around it, and we got there in the afternoon, and D Company was in the forefront, and they moved down off the slope out of the woods, came under 20 millimeter of German fire. They were using ACAC guns, 20 millimeter aircraft. That's the first time they used them that we ran into them. But E Company got pinned down, so the battalion got held up. And so they called for some tanks. We were supposed to have tank support and try to get tanks up there to shoot these ACAC guns over on the other ridge. And the tank commanders were afraid of those ACAC guns. And they wouldn't fire back at them. They wouldn't get exposed until they saw what they were. We finally sent somebody to find some of that ammunition and show them what size it was. So we finally got a little tank support firing at them, and that ended the combat for that day. The county commanders figured, well, light fading, we'll wait until tomorrow. He got E Company back under cover, and said wait till tomorrow and send a recon in there. So early next morning, sent a recon out in her side, and they came back shortly and said the Germans had pulled out. And I heard that. I happened to be within earshot when I heard that. I said, oh boy, this was a chance for me to get down there ahead of time and get some loot. So myself, and I took my instrument corporal, and I believe, I don't remember if it was Doris or Kelso was with me. Anyhow, 3 of us went down there. And I got the boys all lined up because I had heard the order of march of the battalion commander getting ready to get everybody on the road. And I got my boys together and I told them, you follow G Company. When they come out of the road came out of the woods and went along in front of the woods down here for about a half a mile or so, and then there was a railroad on the pass there, and then it turned and went into her side. And I told both guys, I said, now, you follow G Company, but keep your Jeeps back in the woods until the last man in G Company gets under that underpass. So when you come out of the woods, I said, highball it and get down there and under cover again. So I took off with these boys and went on, walked on down there. No problem, went under the underpass, went on the road into town. But like I said, you get these sensors. The closer we got to the first house, I can still see those houses. There was a brick house over here with a garage. And the garage was on this end of it. And then the houses started in pairs opposite each other. But there was one house out here on the left-hand side by itself. And the closer I got to that thing, I guess that's 400 or 500 yards. I'd say about as far as from here to beyond the tree line over there. At least that far. And I got a feeling that somebody had their eyes on me. So I got the boys, guys over, I said, this doesn't look right, let's get in the ditch. We got in the ditch on the left side of the road. And we crawled the rest of the way down. We got that house and got over and into that garage and into the house. And then we were going through the house. And while we're going through the house, Sergeant had gone upstairs. He was up on the upper floor. And he came upstairs there and got my attention. So damn, aircraft out there. And so I went up and looked out, and there was a German half-track with these 20 millimeter anti-aircraft guns on it. And it's sitting right there by these two houses there. And so, using the better part of valor, I told everybody, we all got together, 3 of us, don't shoot us, don't let you shoot us. Just be quiet and don't run over here. And that's what we did. In the meantime, the battalion was coming out of the woods and starting to move down the road. And the worst 8 ball I had in my platoon, and I don't even know his name. I don't want to remember. But he was one of these guys that was always going to screw up. And I'd tried him out everywhere. He was gunners, assistant gunner with ammunition. He couldn't even function without screwing up as an ammunition bearer. And so I finally made him a Jeep driver because I figured I could control him better there, and most of the time he wouldn't be well. He'd be out of my hair. And he's the one driving the Jeep with this Indian. I had a sergeant, a full-blooded Indian boy, that was one of my gun sergeants. And it was his Jeep. And I had given him that Jeep and trailer because that was the one we were keeping all our wine. And every time we'd take a farmhouse, we'd get whatever eggs and a piece of ham sometimes and jelly. We were saving all that up because everybody else in the units were getting drunk wherever they went. Half the time they were fighting drunk, I mean. But I had told my boys in Cologne, is where the whole damn time was down on the line there, and I told my boys then, we had a trailer load of wine. I'll ration out the wine where we can stop, and you have all that you want to drink during these periods, but you don't drink when we only do you're fighting. And so they agreed that was all right, good way to do it. And so we were saving this one trailer had our wine in, and bits of ham and eggs. All the German families had to keep eggs for the army. And they kept them in these big milk cans that had isinglass or water glass. And most of them would have maybe, sometimes you find half a can full of eggs. And all we ever got to eat during combat was those K rations. And they were crackers and cheese. I mean, the guys in the rear headquarters and the rear areas, they got all the good ones. And they'd send us those damn cracker and cheese dinner things. And so we were, whenever we could get a place like that, in fact, I can still see GI's column going down the road here and moving up on a German position. Farmhouse over here, see the column bends and goes right through the farmhouse. And out the other side, you see guys coming out there with a slab of bread and egg on it with yolk running all over the place, all over their beards and everything, trying to eat those eggs. Whoever got there first would get the old house fried and make a cook fry eggs for them. Well, the column would go through there picking up eggs and they never stopped. They just grabbed it as it went through there. Half the time it was raw, I think. Those are the kind of things I remember. But anyhow, where was I? I forgot.
No, you were talking about how you'd saved the wine in the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
8 balls.
We were going into Hirschhide, yeah. And the lead foot elements had come under the underpass and were heading down toward the entrance of town, where we were sitting there waiting for them to get up there and save us. But about the time the lead elements got there, in the meantime, this half-track pulled out. And I heard this artillery piece go off back from where they were coming from, the woods where we had been holed up. And after a while, before the sergeant got in, I smelled ham cooking. And about that time he got down and came in with his squad. His Jeep and trailer had been hit. This kid had pulled out from the cover of the woods before the last troops got him. Troops were only about halfway to that thing there, and he had pulled out with the Jeep and trailer and got caught up with the troops and had to slow down there. And when he did, then the German artillery piece was sitting back in the woods there, and they fired and hit him. And they cut the Jeep in half. That Indian boy was sitting there. He was on the side that got hit. And he was sitting there, and a couple of guys were riding on the trailer and back. But he hollered right before that thing. He sensed that thing before it fired and said, "Bail out." And he bailed out the right side, and all the other guys ripped off the trailer. And about that time, that shell hit there and sliced the Jeep in two. It didn't kill the driver. He was still sitting there, but it sliced his butt. There was enough of that shell piece that cutting through there that put a pretty good cut in his rear end. And he's the only casualty that I had in the whole war. But most of that stuff come from disobeying what they should have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, we got into her side. The foot troops got in there, and they're starting to move in towards center town, the other side. Germans had pulled back. And we come out of that house, and with my boys, we're walking along. I remember the brick wall on the right-hand side. There's a brick wall along here, a couple of houses there. And I remember, sniper fired from it. It was a 3-story house.
Mm-hmm.
Sniper fired at one of the guys up ahead and hit one of them. And I at the time had a German automatic rifle that I'd picked up somewhere. And I thought it came from the 3rd floor of that house there, and I started blasting through the window there. While I was firing through the window there, I came down to the 2nd floor and was going through all those and everything. Here's a medic sticks his head up out of the basement window down there. Hey, we're down here, we got some wounded down here. But, so some of the riflemen took off around the house there to try to catch the guy, but he had fired that one shot and got out an outside stairway and took off through the woods somewhere. But I mean, that's the way things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
sort of chaotic, no sense.
Yeah, you never knew what was going on. You never knew who was where or what.
Mm-hmm.
We attacked at night time and walked through that one I was telling you about earlier, where we were supposed to attack Hill 60 something, or some numbered hill. At dawn, and the battalion's moving up, and we're on a gravel road, and the moon never shines in combat. You never have any light. It's always dark, and you can't see anything visible.
Mm-hmm.
But we're walking along there. It's so dark. Everybody's got a white handkerchief tied around their arm so that you can see a line in front of them. We're walking along, column on each side of the road. Crunch, crunch, crunch. If you ever heard gravel footsteps crunch, you ought to hear them in nighttime in combat. I mean, they sound like they're coming through an amplifier. All you hear is these feet crunching, crunching, crunching. It sounded like a cotton-picking division. And we walked there, and I think it's about maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then about 5 o'clock, artillery opened up from our rear. It was our artillery. Yeah, ground drops in and goes up there. And fortunately, it was there was a field artillery officer with the battalion. Because that first round, which is a sensing round to see where they're going to drop the barrage on, dropped right on the hill where the rifle company was lining up, getting ready to assault. Right in the middle of it, but on the wrong target. But fortunately, that artillery observer was with that bunch, and he got it stopped right away. But that held us up. That screwed up our attack.
Mm-hmm.
And so they waited for daylight to find out what's going on. And as daylight comes, and I'm looking around, I'm behind these rifle platoons or companies. I look around. Here comes with the sunlight right behind them, here comes all these Germans over the ridge right behind us where we had just walked through there on the gravel road. All these Germans, the road was full of them, one side or the other, surrendering. And we had walked through them. There was a ridge there that they were coming over, and this thing cut through it. And they had machine guns. They had positions on both sides of that ridge and had machine guns there. And we walked right through that thing in the dark, and they knew we were there. They must have scared the hell out of them. They figured with all that sounded the whole division there, and so they never fired. And that happened more than once. We sat under a field artillery battery one night in town there that we had started. We had jumped off in the night, and I was supposed to be attached to G Company. I was always supposed to be attached to G Company. But come daylight, and they're walking through this, along this road there, and I'm checking them out. What platoon? I got G Company walking by. What outfit's in? First platoon G Company. I knew what the G Company's formation was supposed to be. Third platoon was supposed to be the last one. So every so many guys would walk by, and I'd call out, what platoon? Second platoon, G Company. And I finally got to the third platoon walking by. And finally got one guy, and the guy said third platoon G Company. And so I figured, well, I started counting guys as I went by there. And they asked me, are you the last man? Are you the last man? Are you the last man? No. Yeah, I'm the last man. So I followed him behind with my platoon. We walked all night long. I don't know where they were moving up there. And come daylight, we're in a wooded area on a little ridge top there somewhere. And lo and behold, that company commander, he's gathering his troops, his NCOs together to tell them what to do. And that ain't G Company commander. That's E Company commander. And so somehow, but the third platoon of G Company was with them. Somehow they'd gotten mixed up as normal, and G Company's third platoon was following E Company. And that's where they wound up. But I had been assigned specifically to G Company, and so I knew I felt I had to get back to G Company. And I told Captain Company Commander that I was supposed to be with G Company, and he said, well, I said, I'm keeping that those riflemen. I said, I'm going to go find G Company. So he kept the third platoon of G Company there because he was missing one platoon too. So he kept them, he wouldn't let them go, and I took off with my platoon across. Finally, found a little, some buildings there, and I got in there with them, and battalion headquarters was there, and we hadn't had any rations for a day, and I wanted to get some rations from the men. And battalion headquarters, the old man showed me what the deal was. The G Company was supposed to, they were down a little valley there on the road, and they were fixing to move out, and I was supposed to be attached to them. And so I told Major McGovern and Battalion S3 that we hadn't had anything to eat. I need some damn rations for my men. And he said, well, I'll get them down to you, but you get on down there, and you got to go out with G Company when they move out. So I had seen, and I asked him where the hell they were going, and he showed me on the map that he's going down here to this, we'll follow this road to go down here to the intersection where this one goes left. Go down here to this little village there, and that's where we're going to, the battalion's going to assemble down here. And so I got down there with G Company's people, and they came down, sent down some rations in a Jeep. My men sitting around there eating, and everybody dog tired. And G Company starts moving out about the time we started eating our rations. And that's the only time I ever had any problem with any of the men. Was one overage corporal. I told him that we had to get on the road here, we had to go with G Company, and that we'd have to eat as we could while we were walking. So I told two sergeants, Sergeant Doris, to get them on their feet. He told them to get up, and they started getting up. And this one corporal, older fellow, said he wasn't moving nowhere until he finished eating. And when he said that, the guys that had started getting up sat back down. They were tired and everything. That's a good deal. They'll go ahead and eat. And I told that corporal, I gave him a direct order to get on his feet and get. And he wouldn't do it. So I came close to shooting him. I pulled my .45 out. And I couldn't have that thing, whatever you call it, rebellion. But I pulled my .45 out, and already had a round in the chamber. Told him to get on his feet, and if he didn't, I was going to shoot him. and he almost held out. He was really. If I can remember, I think I was already putting a little pressure on the trigger before he realized that I meant what I was saying, and he decided to get up. So I relieved him right there, but then I couldn't spare anybody to send him back. I told him to go back to the battalion and report in. He's under arrest for whatever you call it. But anyhow, we moved out with G Company. We walked until dark. I remember it was after dark we got down to where that intersection was, that other road that he was supposed to go left, and he was going to the right. And so I trotted up back the head of the car there where Lieutenant Von Tom was in charge of that group. Got up there and so you're going the wrong way, Tom. He said, we called him the monster. He was a big, husky guy, black-haired. And you're going the wrong way. No, we supposed to. I said, hell no, I was at the battalion. I saw him on the map where made him go. Said to go down there, you're supposed to go left. And he said, no, we're going the right way. And I said, the hell you are. I said, I'm not going that way. And I made him create a indecision, I guess. He said, well, check it out. So he got his Jeep up. He got in the Jeep, went on down the road, and there was a little bit of light, moonlight. It was cloudy, but it was enough light that we could see that bridge where that Jeep went over. And we're all, in the meantime, everybody's off the side of the road, waiting. Jeep goes over the bow of the ridge there. Boy, all of a sudden, that Jeep comes flying back over that ridge there, and I swear you, that thing was out off the ground coming back. And about the time it hit the road on this side of the ridge and going on down to the valley there, blam! 88 went off there. They had run right into it. It was in the middle of the road there. And right as they went over the brow of the ridge there, they saw it, and the driver crammed that thing in second and put on his brake, crammed it in second, and turned around right under the muzzle of the gun, he said. And they floorboarded it getting back over there. But it startled the gun crew so much that their reaction time, they had gotten over the ridge before they fired it. But that was the night we sat under an artillery piece. We got back, and the monster agreed that he was going the wrong way. So they turned around, we made the left turn, but went on down to where this little farm village was, and moved into that. And it was so dark you couldn't see as usual. So I took over the first house. I had that uneasy feeling again. And I took the first house on the left. There weren't any houses on the right. There was a field up there. But took over that house and got my platoon in there under cover. And of course everybody knew to keep quiet and not make any racket. And I told my platoon sergeant that I was going to find out where G Company's headquarters was, and where they were back bunked down for the night, and find out what was going on. And told him to get everybody under cover and check out the cellars. Those Germans, most of those houses had cold cellars, trapdoors down there. And that was one source of a lot of our problems, because the Germans would leave snipers behind in those cellars, and I'm sure we blew up a lot of innocent people in those cellars. Because when you're taking those towns and moving on through and you're under fire, you check out a house, if it had a trapdoor in the cellar under there, they just put it up, throw a couple of grenades in there and go on. If you didn't, you'd get shot in the back by some sniper coming out. But anyhow, I went down the road there up ahead and found another farm house and stuff there, and got back in there and found out who the G Company commander was. And found out what the deal was. He wanted to hold up there for the night because they were lost from the rest of the battalion. And so he wanted a machine gun crew out on that end of that little village there. And so I ducked back and got me a section down there. Told them just sit tight and lay, be quiet, and sweat it out. And got back to where the other end of the building, my people were, the rest of the platoon. And in the meantime, one of the guys had been checking around the area looking for whatever, loot probably. Had been down close to the road that I came back on, had seen and heard some Germans, and a couple of them up there in that next field. And that's where that field artillery outfit was. And a couple of those guys had lit a cigarette. And that's how he had spotted them. And then he hung around listening. He heard us talking a little bit. So we knew we were sitting under that gun there. So when I got back there, I alerted everybody in the platoon to what the situation was. We got all the furniture and everything we could piled up against that wall on that side of that house there. Hunkered down and spend the night. And in the meantime, during the night, that artillery outfit pulled out. And I don't know whether that was part of that outfit or some others, but there were 2 or 3 truckloads of German troops that came right by us there, went on down the road past my gun section there. We weren't going to start anything. And they didn't know we were there. We weren't about to let them know. But that's so much for that anyhow.
Did you help liberate Dachau, or did you get there at some point?
Yeah. One of them, there were several of them we liberated. And I would have to review some of that stuff. Somewhere I've got something that said I don't know. I think it was near Innsbruck, or in River, where we breached that barrier. Anyhow, all I remember about it was it was on the outskirts of town, and we walked through, went through one barracks, gave the skeletons there whatever little bits of food we had, something left from our K ration, those crackers, and excuse me. I guess the worst thing we could have done for them, really, but